Well, Labor will make good on its long-standing policy to scrap the sanction on beneficiaries who don't name the father of their child. But the how, the when and the how much of these changes, well, are still pretty much up in the air, as are the wider ramifications about the child's right to know who both parents are. More than 13,000 solo mothers are affected by the sanction, which can see their benefit cut by more than $20 a week per child. Earlier this afternoon, I spoke to the Social Development Minister, Carmel Sepuloni.
Well, it wasn't our policy going into the election, and basically we've not been presented with any evidence that the sanctions have helped achieve their original purpose. And the people that have been punished over the years because of the sanction are largely women and their children. So this is an issue that we want to address.
When I look at the law, and this is Section 70A of the Social Security Act, there are already considerable exemptions for parents who don't want the other parent, and it usually is women, who don't want the father named. And they include that the children would be at risk of violence, or they include that there is a likelihood of there being dramatic consequences on the children, or if the child was conceived as a result of incest or sexual violation. A number of quite broad exemptions to this. So why do you need to do anything at all?
It's been inconsistently applied, and there's lots of feedback that we've received to support that is the case. But my major concern is that the number one reason why a parent chooses not to name the other parent has been because of family violence. And we don't want to doubly punish these women and their children because we're demanding something of them, which is still happening in many instances. So rather than muck around with that, our decision was to repeal that section.
OK, but as I look at the law, Section 3, it says that one of the reasons for an exemption is, and I'm quoting the law directly here, the beneficiary or any of the beneficiary's children would be at risk of violence if the beneficiary carried out this naming. So there's already an exemption in law to do that.
As I said, it's been applied inconsistently. Some women don't want to say to their caseworker that they're in this position. And so, rather than muck around with this, we're just saying repeal the section.
OK. When I look at how many people got exemptions under the numerous clauses for exemption, it's something approaching 3,000 people a year. So there are a considerable number of women who are using these exemptions. Could you not just ensure that the department fixes up any inconsistency here? Do you really need to legislate?
There's actually almost 18,000 children that are affected by the reductions, and I think that's the consideration that needs to be made here. If we're going to take our policy around reducing child poverty seriously, then this is one of the many ways in which we can address that. Nearly 18,000 children affected by these reductions. That's really concerning to me, and that's why I've got the ministry doing some work on this issue at the moment.
OK, have you estimated how much it would cost to change this policy?
This is one of those things. I mean, we've only been in for about 2 weeks in this role. So one of the many areas that I'm seeking advice from the Ministry of Social Development officials on. So it's not something I can change overnight, but it is something that we're looking to do down the track. OK. When I look at Auckland Action Against Poverty, they've done a bit of work on this. They've estimated that these women are losing on average about $1,500 a year. We know from official figures that 13,000 women are being targeted by this. So if you add those together, you get about $20 million. Does that sound about right? Have you taken any soundings on that? At this stage, I want to get exact official advice from the ministry. I really respect the work that AAAP and other organisations have been doing, the work that they have been doing in this area, but I need to get exact official advice from my ministry. OK. Would the father's name still have to be on the birth certificate under this change, do you know? There's lots of advice that I'm still getting Guy on. So at this stage, it's a policy that we're committed to. The how and the when are all things that are unconfirmed, and all of the detail around it, as I said, is still being brought to me with regards to the advice that I'm getting from ministry officials.
OK, but as you say, it was in your policy in the election campaign. You've obviously thought about this for some time. It's been an issue raised in the public arena for some time. Do you know whether the parent, if known, would still have to appear on the birth certificate?
This is a policy that, yes, we campaigned on, but in terms of the detail, Guyon, it's only now that we're privy to a whole lot of information and advice.
For sure, but what do you think, though? Do you think?
So
I understand that.
I need to be given the time to collect that information.
But what is your thinking on that? What is your thinking on whether the parents' names should be on the birth certificate?
When I come out with the detail around this policy, I want to be precise, and so I'm not going to give ad hoc bits of information in terms of what my opinion might be or whatever else. Well, I'm waiting to get the official advice from the ministry so that we can come out with a full kind of description of how this might apply.
OK, but have you thought about that, whether the parents' names should be on the birth certificate?
Thinking about a lot to do with this policy going on, but I'm not going to confirm any of the detail at this stage.
Because presumably there are some rights of the child to know who their parents are, right?
Dion, I'm not going to confirm any of the details around that at this stage.
Well, do you think that children have a right to know who their parents are?
You're taking me down a completely different track. The policy is around repealing Section 70A of the Social Security Act, and so I'm not going to go down the track on that issue. OK,
but there are other ramifications of doing this, really, aren't there?
So that's why I'm seeking advice by the ministry officials.
OK, so what is the time frame, Minister, on when you're hoping to have this achieved?
No time frame set at this stage, because obviously our priority at this point in time is our 100-day plan. So I can't set a time frame for this. At this point, all I can say is that the ministry is doing some work behind the scenes for me on it.
Right, so you've instigated that. There is some policy work in train, and then you have to work up a cabinet paper, but no timeline as yet.
No.
That is the Social Development Minister, Carmel Sepuloni. I spoke to her a little earlier this afternoon.